Volunteers are here from the Jefferson Center for Mental Health this afternoon for a Senior Source Line 9. They can answer questions about depression, anxiety, and other mental health challenges. 303-698-0999. Lines are open until 5:30.
Prince Harry and Prince William have recently been receiving accolades for openly talking about grief. 20 years after the death of their mother, Princess Diana, both men have been speaking about the impact it had on them as children and now as adults. Nancy Sharp is an author and speaker. She has experienced all sides of loss and recently finished this book, Because the Sky is Everywhere. And we're going to talk a little bit about grief, but this comes from real life for you.
It does, actually. So the very title of the book stems from a conversation that my 3-year-old twins had shortly after their dad died. We were driving in the car, and of course they were so little, you know, they had no concept of where he was. They thought he might be hiding. And so one day we were driving by a cemetery. This was not where their dad was buried, but my daughter asked if that's where he was. And her twin brother Casey said, "No, Rebecca, Daddy's in the sky." And I thought, I remember just gripping the steering wheel and thinking, wow, where did he come up with that one? And Rebecca asked, "Is the sky back that way, Mama?" Meaning New York City, where we lived at the time. And Casey said, "No, Rebecca, the sky is everywhere." And I thought that that was such a powerful, beautiful, reassuring way to render love, and that even though a loved one dies, that love you feel can still be everlasting. And even at 3 years old, that's what they were doing.
And that's the thing. I mean, we talk about when there's little ones, or even when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, or even a teenager, this shapes your life. I mean, we're looking at your twins right now. I can't imagine how difficult for the surviving parent in your case, because you're grieving and then you're offering them.
Right.
You're trying to comfort them.
It was very challenging. And you know, at the time, there was very little literature out there about, you know, families like ours. And they, you know, a lot of the books for early readers, they portray grief through animals and through inanimate objects. And my kids could not relate to that, quite frankly. They really wanted to read about real families, or at least other kids like themselves. So I think this is really an opportunity for parents, for educators, for professionals, to, you know, provide resources so that these conversations can really come out into the open more.
You know, I have to ask you, as somebody like, you know, if this happens in your neighborhood, your school, whatever, we all struggle with the words. What would you have wanted to hear from people? Would you have rather people just asked you directly, or asked your kids directly, "How are you doing? I bet you miss your daddy," or what would you want?
I think so, because a lot of people hide behind it, and people don't want to talk about it because they think it's going to be upsetting. But it's really, in my experience, it is much better to be open with it and to be comfortable, because there's nothing shameful about losing. I mean, loss is universal, but so too is hope. And love is so universal, and that is stronger and bolder and more powerful than loss any day.
And we lose friends and grandparents and pets and people.
Siblings and loved ones, and it's just pervasive. So.
And your story has a really happy ending for those that do know. It does have a nice ending. And an interesting ending, because Steve, your husband, his longtime TV journalist in this area, also lost his wife.
He did, and their boys were 10 and 11 when Pamela died, and you know, really, really, really rough ages for them. And so we blended our families. We've been married now 9 years, and you know, we know what it's like to have experienced loss on both sides, and it never goes away. It's always there, but you know, we focus on the love and living today, because that's what Brett, my first husband, and Pam would have wanted for us.
You honor their lives by doing that.
We honor their lives by moving forward and by loving fully.
It's bilingual, this book, as well.
It is.
And we're going to do something on our website, but you're making it available to schools and other groups, and I know if you want to speak.
It can even be custom printed. So for organizations that might have an interest in, you know, personalizing the book for the children and families that they serve, I would love to talk to them about that, because it's really meant to be a resource.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you
for showing us the light, if you will. I mean, there are many, many dark days, and we all have those days.
We all have
But you got to look to the hopeful days as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Because the sky is everywhere. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Ryan?
No, thanks for sharing your story, Nancy. It's really wonderful. Appreciate it.